Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, General Assembly. Well, before we begin, I want to talk a little bit about the man of the hour, Adam Lilling. Adam is a serial entrepreneur, and he is the founder of Plus Capital and co-founder of Launchpad LA. The theme for tonight is going to be VC interest versus VC investment and celebrities in startups. And I'm sure we're going to cover a number of amazing topics within there, and then we'll have about 10 or 15 minutes for questions and answers after the chat. So one thing that we do at Startup Grind that's very important, every single event, our speakers are taking their time out of their day to come out, tell us about their story. Adam's here, and he's willing to be here because he cares about you guys. He cares about LA, and he cares about the entrepreneurial ecosystem here. So I want to do a dry run of this because we don't want to waste the man's time. So on the count of 3, I want everyone to get out of their seats and give a big round of applause for Adam spending his time to be here. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Beyond unnecessary. Thank you. Just gonna leave my stuff here because my wallet's gonna take all my pants.
All right.
Hi.
So, normally we start these things off by just talking about your background a little bit. So, why don't you tell us about where you were born, your childhood, all leading up to your, your first dream.
So like touching about the farmhouse. No, I grew up in Long Island. I went to Michigan. Go Blue. I moved out here 22 years ago because I was in the undergraduate business program. I was supposed to go to law school. And though I'm a big fan of Scott Alderton at Stubbs Alderton, I didn't want to be a lawyer. So I talked my way into a program for writing music for movies at USC. And it got me to LA. And then when it was over, I went into the record business. And I worked for a guy named Miles Copeland, who founded IRS Records and managed Sting and the Police. And in 1994, I was a 24-year-old kid who was just entrepreneurial, and I was at the record label, and Miles had big plans for me. And a friend of mine was head of technology for something called the Visual History Foundation, which was Steven Spielberg's Shoah Foundation. He showed me this really cool thing called a browser, Mosaic, and this thing called the Internet. And I ran back to the office and said to Miles, we should be selling cassettes and CDs on this thing called the Internet. And that was it. He didn't want to do it, but he said I could, and I started one of the first internet record and video stores. Now, that sounds so smart, and it was so stupid because there was only 16 million people on the internet, and if I had listened in business school classes, I would have thought, hey, there's 1 billion people coming. Let's start a picks and shovels business like a dial-up service or a hosting company or something else. That wasn't my passion, music business, and I would have done much better. But I ended up selling to Virgin mega stores in the late 90s, getting killed in the dot-com crash. So on paper, I was worth a great amount of money, and then it was all gone. Thank God it happened in my 20s and not my 40s. And I've been through a crazy journey because in 2009, I stopped and realized that I wasn't a great startup CEO. You think that, you get the ball, it's my ball, I should be the quarterback, so I should be the CEO. I decided I wasn't great throwing the ball, using a sports metaphor, sorry. And I just was lost. So I decided to go help LA. And my friend Mark Schuster at the time was saying, why don't you come do this with me? We're going to go mentor some startups in LA and try to build an LA tech ecosystem. There's no money in it. There was no anything in it. It just felt good. And I mentored about 23 companies in the first couple classes. And then I became an investor, and I became a VC, for lack of a term. But my fund, Plus Capital, the LPs, the investors in my fund are celebrities, athletes, musicians, they're business managers, they're entertainment attorneys, and we help kind of build the business infrastructure for startup and late stage companies, but all of our partners are influencers. So we'll talk about that more later, but I'm spending most of the time on the influencer side, not the seed stage stuff. So when you hear about my fund, as much as I spent years and years and years kind of mentoring the Launchpad classes, I don't do seed anymore. I don't do the early stage. As much as I love it, I just don't have time. I'm really doing more Series A, B, and C. You've already got a VC lead, and I'm trying to manage influencers and how they participate in the world of startups. So For all of you that want to meet me to talk about a check, I can guarantee that there will not be any checks coming from Bless Capital for any seed investments. I just can't do it. I'd love it. It's my favorite thing in the world. But, sometimes you got to go where you've kind of built your business. And for me, that was the Launchpad days, and now it's the Bless Capital days. And that's my life. I'm
all right.
done. That's all I got.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. So, we went over your entrepreneurial career pretty quick as a quarterback. And now you're holding a clipboard. So talking from a VC's perspective and a founder's perspective at what type of idea is backable? Because a lot of people come into whether it's an event or whether raising a round of money and they want to go straight for the VC. So what is a VC backable idea?
Yeah, and we had this problem at Launchpad too, because 1,000 companies would apply for 10 spots, and I tell you that 950 of them were not VC backable. And what I mean by that is, there's 3 types of businesses you could go build in this life, at least the way I break them down. One is a services business, like I'm a doctor, or there's this, I do something for you. I'm an IT consultant. I'm going to get paid for it. If I do enough of it, maybe I'll make enough profit to hire somebody. I'll keep growing the business. Maybe I'll get to 5, 10, could be 1,000 people. It's just, I'm going to build it from the ground up without other people's money. The second is, for lack of a better term, and I've used it a lot, it's the lifestyle business, which is I need $1 million and then I'm going to be profitable. I need $5 million and then I'm going to be profitable. If your number is not 50 or $100 million and I'm going to be profitable, you're probably not a VC backable company. Because the reality is the seed investor is writing a check thinking that they're going to market up to the Series A investor. And the Series A investor is going to promote it to either put in more money so they can own more of the company, or they're going to get the next investor in. So you'll see this with any major company that's going to be worth billions of dollars. That's what the VC model is, and I can explain why that is, by the way. Now that I'm on the other side of it, I never understood it. But as a venture capitalist, you raise money from all these people to make a series of bets that 1 or 2 or 3 really pay off big, and you don't get enough. There's not enough exits in the world for you to get 7 out of 10. So you have to get these crazy outsized returns. So the third model is the venture capital model, which is I need $1 million, then I'm going to need 5 to 10, then I'm going to need 15 to 30, then I'm going to need 50 to 100 in a growth round. I'm going to try to go public, or I'm going to get sold. You see what's happening with Uber. You see what's happening with a lot of late stage companies. Those are venture capital models. And if you don't have something big enough in your head right now that says this is why I'm going to probably need this later, then you're not tackling a problem big enough. Or if you are, you're still not a venture capital model. I hate to say it. You're just not a venture capital backable company. And you will get what we talk about VC interest versus VC investment. Just to hit that point, you're going to meet with a lot of venture capitalists. They're going to like you for who you are because you're an entrepreneur. You're selling. You're passionate. You're authentic. That's why we like meeting with you. That's why we like talking to you. We want you to succeed. But a venture capitalist in this town especially, and I know every single one of them, they get like this many investments a year personally to make. So you have to not be one of their favorites. You have to be their favorite at a time when they're ready to write a check. So even if you're great and you have interest from them, the chance of you getting investment in them is still a fraction of the people that are saying, oh God, I had this great meeting. Great, you're in the top 50% now. Now you got to get to the top 1% of 1%. So, that's why, we're having this conversation is there's a VC backable concept and there's a VC backable team, and we could talk about that too. But that's what people are looking for, at least in this town, that are not angel investors. And they're called angel for a reason. They do it because they love you. They don't do it because they necessarily think you're already there where they're going to make all this money.
So a VC backable idea, is there a dollar amount tied to that if you're under it, you shouldn't even be talking to a venture capitalist? Or is it more of the vision of the business and how much capital you're going to need to give those big returns?
Yeah, so the way I think about it is almost like an inverted pyramid. At the top, there's a mission. In the middle, there's a business. And at the bottom, there's a minimum viable product. Meaning, what's the smallest amount that I can go build right now in the least amount of money to prove that I'm going to get some sort of product market fit? The reality is a lot of people in this room probably pitch the product or they pitch the business. But if you're going to pitch a VC, you got to pitch the mission. And you're going to get a lot of feedback on why, don't talk too big. You're not there yet. The reality is, and I did this with every Launchpad company and every Launchpad class, is you still have to sell the mission. And then you have to explain how you're going to get there. So, Google's mission is to to take the world's information and make it relevant and useful. At least that was their mission 10 years ago. Every company you're going to meet, Uber is not about cars necessarily. It's about changing transportation. It's not a taxi service. And by the way, Uber's business model and vision is more than just that. It's about logistics. It's about moving things around. It's not just about people, and it's not just about cars. And that's why Amazon wasn't a bookstore. I had an internet record store, and Jeff Bezos came to the music retail convention. And I looked at every other major retailer, and I said, he's coming to do books, and he's going to do everything else. And you need to be ready, Walmart. You need to be ready, Virgin, because this guy is going to actually build out everything. And so great entrepreneurs are thinking whether they're broadcasting it or not, at the investor meeting, they're not pitching the product. They're pitching the mission of what they're going to do to really change the world, because that's the only ones that get outsized returns. It's not this great technology that's going to get this crazy adoption and then we're going to sell it. That's not a VC backable company. That's lucky when you do it, and you might find VCs for it. But the pitch is going to be about how you're going to change communications.
So you were quoted in Forbes. Great article on Forbes. If you haven't read it, everyone needs to.
I was?
Yes.
Okay.
And you said that when you joined Launchpad, what you enjoyed telling, it gave you an opportunity to tell entrepreneurs that if you're building a company and you're going to have a bunch of long shots, that your actual business is a long shot, and you need to know what walls you're going to go through to get there.
Wow, you got to send me that article. That'd be great.
I will.
I appreciate that.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that quote? What does that mean? What walls do I have to go through?
Well, so look, this is the difference. It's a good question. There's a difference between first-time founder and fourth-time founder. I was on the phone today with a very, very, very successful Silicon Valley founder. And by the way, not hard for him to raise money, or her. Another person I spoke to today, a woman who was a fourth-time founder, not hard to raise money. And the reason why is because the people who are writing the checks for you earlier, you're learning on their dime. This is your education. Because there are certain things, whether it comes to valuation or dilution or team building or execution, that you just don't always know. And I'm a big believer that mentors or advisors or people that have been through it before, like, you'll know if you're going to be a great early, like, I don't care about age, but I mean in terms of if this is the first time you're being an entrepreneur, if you don't have people around you that you're actually listening to, that you're a study of history. If you think I've got a product that other people have tried, but I'm going to do better, and you haven't found out why they failed, and if your only answer is we're smarter or the timing is right, you're going to fail. Sorry, it's not going to happen. Like, there's things that you learn as an entrepreneur that other people who have been down the path like you could teach you. And if you're not a study of history and you're just a study of mistakes that you're going to make, which, by the way, to be fair, I'm a study of mistakes. I wish I was a study of history. I am now a study of history. But it took me 15 years to find that I had made every mistake in the book. That's why I was mentor-in-chief at Launchpad, is you could ask any company that went through Launchpad. I knew exactly what they were going through. I made the mistake before they made the mistake. And that's why I did Launchpad, is because learn from me before you make this mistake. If you're not thinking that way, you're probably going to mess up this startup. So don't worry about dilution. Don't worry about how much of the company you own. Just try to find a path to a win so that you can do it again. Because it's not going to, like, the delta of the few points that you're going through ain't going to be there. So for me, it was, there's these hurdles, and I can't go through all of them, but you are going to hit so many hurdles along the way, and you're trying to break down a wall, and if you can't go full speed into that wall, you're not going to break down that wall. So you can't get tripped up by this stupid stuff.
So one thing, real good segue from what you just talked about, one thing that's really prevalent right now, not only in Silicon Valley, but in LA, is a stealth startup. I have a great idea, and no one else knows about it. I don't want anyone to know about it because we haven't built it yet, but it's a great idea. So how do I launch and raise money and sell my stealth startup?
So it's funny because I did this. So again, mistake that I made, 2005, raising money in stealth mode. A VC once said to me, and I didn't believe it, and I believe it wholeheartedly right now, is I could give a shit about your idea. I only care about your execution. And if somebody else can hear your idea today and go take it and go do it, then you don't have anything. And I kept thinking about that for years and years and years, and could not be more true. If you have an idea that is so proprietary that if you just tell people the idea, and that is the thing that's keeping you in stealth mode, just stop. Please, just stop. Because I guarantee, I've watched it thousands of times. Unless you are the best executor in the world, you will still fail. And if you're a first-time entrepreneur, you already have 2 arms tied behind your back and your legs are crossed, and you're trying to run, because the person who has done this 3 times is going to eat you up alive, because they're going to be able to get the money faster, they're going to know the team to go get faster. And so even if you get out of stealth mode and you launch, they will out-execute you. So if your idea is that proprietary, that you're in stealth mode, by the way, during that stealth mode, you have found no ability to go get a team because you haven't told anybody about the idea and sold them. You haven't socialized it with investors because you're so afraid that if you tell them the idea, that they're going to turn around and actually tell somebody else. We call it collateral damage. And
Do investors do that?
what? Tell other people about it?
Will you take my idea and go tell an entrepreneur you know that might be able to build it and execute?
No.
Okay.
No. There's one group in LA that was notorious for taking a couple people's idea and turning them into things, but they were not VCs. But I still don't even think that's legitimate complaint, because they just out-executed them. Like one of my last investors in my last company, Josh Koppelman from First Round and Howard Morgan from First Round, called it collateral damage. You have to run so fast that you're going to make mistakes. It's part of the breaking eggs of a startup. And if you don't feel like you could run fast enough to tell people the idea, stop. Because unless it is some patentable technology for a chip that you're about to manufacture, and I'll give you an example, by the way, of a company that I'm an investor in called Previty, which is a great cybersecurity company here in LA. And they could walk into a room, and they do, walk into a room with every security company on the planet and tell them exactly what they're doing. Because they say, and I agree, because we just signed Visa and we have some of the biggest companies in the world that are doing it, that their technologists have come up with the algorithm and the mechanism to do it. And that's the stuff that they don't tell anybody about. Everything else, they just explain how they can go do it, because they have a team that has done it, where others are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars and haven't figured it out. And that's why you back them, is because they figured it out. And not only that, they've out-executed everybody, and they're continuing to. So ideas, they always say it's not worth a lot. I'm sorry, it's not worth a lot. I mean, it's just not. Your idea that, I think I was at a VC, I think it was the Benchmark guys were saying at the Goldman conference the other day, like if you look at the entire portfolio of the greatest companies that they've ever invested, you put them on the wall and then you look at what their original business plan is, even the greatest companies in the world, 90% of them are not what they started. So whatever idea you have right now, if you think that's the thing that's taking you to the goal line, probably not.
So we talk a lot about scaling a business model, but I want to talk about something else. How do I scale a narrative starting in nothing? How can you scale a narrative when you're just in the idea phase or just in your first product launch all the way to 30 million plus in revenue?
Well, that kind of ties back to the original mission, business, minimum viable product. I mean, your mission shouldn't change, right? I am trying to feed the homeless. I am trying to build a new way of communicating for teenagers, or I'm trying to transform transportation. I'm trying to do something that's so transformational that shouldn't change over time. And that's, by the way, how you keep raising money. The business is kind of how you're going to make money and what are you going to go do. Minimum viable product is that app that you just built. And the reality is the metrics that you have to scale are the things that are going to get you the next round and the next round and the next round. I built the product. Great. Give me some seed money. I'm going to go get 100,000 users that are going to be, 20% daily active users after 30 days. Great. Here's your A round. Great. Now I've scaled it up to 2.2 million users. Great. Here's your B round, right? Well, great. I'm just adding now. I have 2.2 or 3.2 or 20 million users. And let me add the next part of my product, right? Instagram, photos, right? Twitter, tweets. They will continue to evolve as large social media companies or media companies.
Snapchat, great example.
Snapchat. Everybody argued about disposable photos. And then the next day when they had scale, they turned on Snapchat stories, and they do 1 billion stories a day, I think, 1 billion views a day on Snapchat stories, which last more than 10 seconds. They last a day. And they are changing the way people are doing storytelling. I have a lot of big people in Hollywood that look at Snapchat going, they are completely changing the way we do storytelling. And they all want in. And what comes next from Snapchat? I don't know. I was over there the other day. They're working on some great stuff. Doesn't matter. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to have 1 billion people or 100 million people to go turn it on for. So that's why we talk about scale before monetization. If you're going to do businesses like media or communications, it's more important that you find something that gets this adoption, that gets to scale, because people know how to monetize scale. They don't know how to monetize 50,000 users enough to invest in it. They know how to monetize 50 million users. And that's why smart investors will look for the ability for you to get to big first.
So what metrics as a founder should I be looking out for?
It depends on if it's a commerce business versus a media business versus, an app.
So let's just talk about commerce, because you have experience in the commerce space.
So I'm an investor in these lovely jeans called Distilled, DSTLD. They used to be 20 jeans, and I hope they don't get mad, but I'll tell you a little bit about their story. They went into Amplify. I begged for Launchpad to take them. I thought they were amazing. Because Corey, the founder, had sourced the jeans, had gotten the website built, and got $100,000 worth of sales on his own. He figured out how to buy a customer for the right price and convert them. What I missed was the average order size of the basket of the purchase. So you have to have a certain amount of sales dollars to hit it. So they raised $2 million or whatever it was. They got to like $400,000 a month in revenue. Boom, guys did it. They woke up one day and they said, this isn't going to work. Now, some people will keep going because it's all about top line revenue. Brian Lee, I'm one of the biggest fans of Brian Lee in the world, but he had Shoe Dazzle and they had revenue, and the costs were higher than the revenue, and sometimes you just can't make it back up because the margins are just too low. But these guys saw a different opportunity. They said, you know what, let's stop selling $25 jeans or Levi's jeans for $25. Let's go J-brand quality, $250 jeans, and we'll sell them for $65. And they found their order economics, and they said, look, this is how much I'm going to buy a customer for. This is how much a customer purchases. Here's their repeat. Those are the metrics of commerce, right? Margin, customer acquisition cost. If you don't know the metrics of your business, right? For media, it's going to be, time spent on site, or it's going to be spent daily active users or monthly active users. There's going to be engagement metrics, and there's going to be audience metrics. And if you don't know the metrics of your business, then you're probably not going to get to an A round, because what this initial money gets you is enough time to get to the metrics that get you the A round. And if you haven't figured that out yet, if you haven't even asked an investor, okay, I'm going to go build this. What do I need to have for you before you invest in me? Simple question. Do I need 50,000 users, 100,000 users? Do I need them 20% to come back often? Just give me a barometer. No one's going to give you a great answer, but they're going to give you an answer, and you'll collect the data point. But the reality is the metric that you need to get to the next round is crazy growth. I hate to say it, but I call it the runaway freight train. If you're not moving so fast in terms of your scaling that people don't have time to think, that's the only way you're going to create heat in an investment round, because otherwise they have time to think. And they're like, well, I don't have to invest in you right now. I'll wait. And this, by the way, most VCs will do this. They'll be like, that's great. Come back to me next month. And then you come back and it's getting better. And it's like, great, come back to me next month. You'd be like, what's going to take to get these guys to invest in me? First of all, you got to be number one on their important list, as we talked about earlier. But two, you have to have metrics that are going so fast that if they don't invest now at this valuation, they're going to miss, right? ZipRecruiter, Ian, right? That was a big round they just did. They raised $50 million or whatever the number was. Big valuation. If I tell you every investor that said to me, I had an opportunity to invest at $3 million pre, $4 million pre. And then, by the way, if you ask each one of them what the date was, it was within a few weeks of each other. It was like $3 million pre, $4 million pre, $6 million pre. Runaway train. By the time people were ready to write the checks, he was already past them, and they regret it. And it's that kind of momentum that gets the investment round done. It's either competition from other investors or your metrics just scaling so fast that they don't have time to think.
So we have the mission, we have the metrics. What do I need on my team? What type of roles do I need to have filled on my team to be able to get to that scalable growth, not only in actual numbers, but
so the only way I can, the way we talked about it at Launchpad is I always break it into 3 roles. And for any tech company, I break it into 3 roles. It could be one person, it could be 2 people, it could be 3. Usually it's 2 or 3. It's very rare that one person can do all 3. But it's business visionary, product visionary, and tech visionary. Visionary, not just being like, I can think about it, it's I could also execute. But somebody who really understands how to navigate the business, someone who really has a view of the product, and someone who really can build out the tech and make, because somewhere along the line, one of those three things, if it doesn't move as fast as the other two, you're just going to fail anyway. Like, it doesn't matter if you slow your burn rate down, it just means you die faster. Die slower, excuse me. But you need those three things. And sometimes you'll find the business visionary and the product visionary are the same. Sometimes you'll find the tech visionary and the product visionary are the same. So you find these two co-founder moments. But if you're sitting there trying to figure out who's my co-founders, the only three things that matter: product, business, and tech. And you should be having complementary skills and no overlap or little overlap with them. That's it. That's your team.
Can I do all three myself?
You could try. If you're that good. Look, I'll say like Mark Zuckerberg was pretty close to product vision, tech vision, and business vision, though he brought in, what was it, Eduardo or somebody to be business. Over time, that didn't happen, and he went on by himself. And over time, he got to enough scale that he could bring in someone like Sheryl Sandberg. I would say Mark was the closest, but even what he did is he brought in, I met one of them the other day, he brought in some rock star advisors to help try to figure out, how am I going to get through this business problem? Because he was great at product and tech, and he needed more people around him for business. So you can supplement with advisors, but the chances of you being able to manage advisors the right way, where they're going to participate, where they're going to help you enough, that's a talent unto its own. Being able to actually get advisors to do what you need and be able to push them and be able to actually get the maximum value out of them. So if you can do that, you could probably do almost anything.
All right, so how do I know when it's the right time to raise a round?
Well, if you've already identified that this is a venture capital model, I'm going to do this for venture capital play, you're always raising a round. Get used to it. The reason, one of the little secrets that I try to employ at Launchpad, and by the way, no offense, I'm a big Mark Suster fan. Obviously, I wouldn't be where I am today if Mark didn't bring me in and help co-found Launchpad. He wrote this article about don't take a convertible note. And he's right about what his version of everything was. Like, I have nothing to argue on that. But I will give you one little twist to it. Because what I used to do with the Launchpad group is I said the day that they came into Launchpad, you're doing a convertible note. Mark and I will talk about this someday together. Because I knew every single one of them was going to raise a round by the end of that 90 to 120 days. 90% of Launchpad companies raised venture capital money. And it's so hard to raise money and execute at the same time. And it's a fallacy that you could do it, right? That's why you need a business visionary, product visionary, and a tech visionary, because you cannot execute and raise money at the same time. The business visionary is raising money all day long. That's usually the CEO. It's the evangelist that is going to get everybody to come join you. It's not the operator. It's the evangelist that's going to be able to go out and sell everybody on their vision. It could be the product person, but somebody is sitting at the top that is getting everybody to say, I'm going to back you. In that scenario, I still say, if you really feel like you can close a round of financing, open a note, because the more you can hire that one extra person or that second person. Now, I don't know if that goes for everybody here in the room. It goes for Launchpad companies because we had pre-vetted the fact that we knew that they were going to raise venture capital money come hell or high water. Most of them did. Right? Or fail. But thankfully, 90-some-odd% raised venture capital model. So I felt comfortable saying open up the note. I can't tell you guys to do that because I don't know anything about your business or anything to be able to go and say you're going to get to that other side. So that's the one exception that I would make on convertible notes, is that if I know or you know that you're going to close that round in 90 to 120 days and you already have that much interest, open the note, convert it in, keep moving faster. But even after you do that and you close the round, the next thing you're doing is what we call pre-marketing. You're going and meeting the next level of investors. You're not telling them you're raising money. You're telling them about your company. Because if you think you're going to go raise money the day you're ready to go raise money, it doesn't work that way. You have to know these people. They have to believe in you. They have to see you execute. The easiest way to do that is to just say, hey, Mark Mullen. Hey, Nate Redmond. Hey, Mark Suster. I know we don't know each other. I have this company. I just want you to know this is where we are, and this is what we're going to do over the next 90 days. The next month, Here's where we are. Just wanted to give you a status. The next month, here's where we are. I want to give you a status so that they see that you are hitting everything you said you were going to do. And whether they meet with you or not, you're going to show that you can deliver on what you said. And then by the time you're ready to raise, you're going to say, look, Mark, I know I've been bothering you for 6 months. Don't tell Mark I said this. Sorry about that. But hey, here's, or any investor. First, you want to try to meet with them to get them to know who you are. But then you just want them to know where you're going. So here's what I did this month. Tiny email. Hey, Mark, don't want to bother you. Not looking to meet with you. Time is precious. So the shortest email with, I said I was going to do this in the next, this month. I just want to let you know what the result was. Boom. Did this last month. Told you I was going to do this next month. Here's the next month. Here's what I did. Then they can track you so that when you're ready to raise, whether it's a seed round or Series D, they're going to know that you deliver on what you say and that you set goals that are real and that you can actually deliver on it. And I would highly recommend anybody you know that you meet a VC, you shouldn't be asking for the second coffee. You shouldn't be asking for help. All you should be doing is you should be showing them what you can do, tell them where you're going, and then show them if you got there or not. Because that's the only way they're going to invest in you when it's time to invest in you. Sorry, I'm tired. I'm babbling a little there. So, but you know what I'm trying to get to.
So how do I know who to raise money from?
Well, so we live in a very different world now than we did when I raised money. I mean, there are blogs and there are lists. If you can't figure out who the top seed investors are in LA, Series A investors are in LA, Series B investors are in LA, and there's very few of those. So if you don't know the two that do that, then you're probably not going to raise money. And by the way, it's funny because I had a dinner last night with a phenomenal entrepreneur, crazy growing company, and I was like, how do you not know who to call? Like, you don't even know who the top 10 investors are for what you're doing right now. Like, you guys are going to fail because you're taking the wrong money. And the guy literally walked out of the dinner, texted me today, changed his whole deal, and sat there and realized, here are the 10 people I need to reach. To his credit, reached 8 out of the 10 today and has meetings with them in the next week. That's a winner. That entrepreneur is going to figure it out. But surprisingly had no idea who First Round Capital was, or SV Angel was, or any other people, or the Box Group with Dave Tisch. Or, I mean, like, do you want to raise the greatest company you can? You're going to go to the greatest investors you can. And if you didn't start there because you didn't know them, but you didn't find a way to get to them, chances are you're going to learn from this company. You're not building a big company. Like, you got to, if you're not, you don't just go to the people around you. You go to the people that you should be getting to. And that's your job as an entrepreneur. Just finding a way to get to the people that matter at the time that's right. And that's it.
Well, being in LA, there's so many people that matter in arm's length, it seems, right? And media companies, entertainment companies, I feel like I've heard myself, so many different entrepreneurs think that if they get a celebrity to either market them or invest in their company, that they have hit gold. When do I get a celebrity?
What was that gold? Is it pyrite? What's the fool's gold thing? Yeah, I was just trying to remember the term of it. What? Thank you. I was right. Thank you. Yeah, I used to love that stuff. Look, I do this all day long. And if I can tell you one thing to walk out of this room of tonight, we should talk about celebrities in your startup. Because I get every phone call there is from everybody in Hollywood on this one. So I'm doing pretty good in terms of knowing what the barometer is. If you're sitting there saying, I'm going after a celebrity because they have money, first of all, just stop what you're doing. Because I could say, I'm going after the mafia because they have money. I'm going after blank because they have money. Just because they have money doesn't mean they're investing. There is almost no celebrities in this town that invest in early stage except for Jared Leto, Omar, one of the guys in my fund, Omar Epps, and a few other people. And they do it because they have found a way to love the technology and the team that you have. But the number of people that actually invest in seed rounds that are celebrities in this town are under 5 people in this entire town. And so if you think you're going to get their money, and by the way, they're investing in the hottest companies all over the country. So you better have the hottest company in LA right now, because they're not just investing for goodwill. They're investing in platforms and people that they know that they want to be aligned with. So chances of you getting a celebrity to write a check, unless you've sold them a product and they love it, and it's just authentic, that they ask you. Like, I would never ask a celebrity to invest in a company that's a Series Seed if I was an entrepreneur. If somebody is a celebrity, like one of our Launchpad companies selling product, and they got 2 celebrities that loved it so much, they wanted to host parties for them, and they did. And then I think they wanted to write a check, and they may have or they may have not. That's fine. Like if they're just human beings that love your product and they want to invest, and there's no strings attached, and they're just part of the angel group, great. Rarely happens again. But if you already sold them a product and they ask you, great, checkbox. You can have that conversation. Don't ask them if they ask you. Because if you ask them, you're completely changing the relationship with them. And you're completely changing the leverage. And the reality is there isn't a single celebrity that's going to be able to help you do anything for your product in the marketplace until you have product market fit. So you're wasting the best bullet you have, which says, I'm going to go from 1,000 users to 10,000 users. You'd rather have them go from 100,000 users to 1 million users. And by the way, I do it all the time with my celebrities. We test it. Send out this tweet. See if you can help, spur on product here. Very rare that they're going to move the needle to where it's worth it for you to give any different equity than you would a venture capitalist or an angel investor. So the time that a celebrity is the best to use is in your Series A. And by the way, if you think it's going to help you raise money, you're right, but not in venture capital, right? So again, let's go back to what kind of company are you? If you're trying to raise $5 million from high net worth people, and you're trying to build a company that's not a venture-backed company, but you're trying to build a company that is just a company that is cool, that you're going to try to make money, and you want to go raise $4 million more, and you think if Ellen DeGeneres puts in 50 grand, then you'll go get the other $4 million. By the way, I'm the guy who gets every phone call for every single person who wants to get money from Ellen DeGeneres too. So I will tell you, you're not getting money from Ellen DeGeneres. So you will always, and she's got a great agent and a great manager and a lawyer and a great business manager, and they all send us, every single deal to look at. And the reality is seed investments don't really happen unless there's a VC lead, there's a little bit of room left open, and you're trying to get some social proof from a celebrity, and you're letting Jared Leto in, or you're letting Omar Epps in, or you're letting Baron Davis in, or you're letting a person in where you might give them an advisory grant. They might go shop because it's so brand aligned to all these other people that they know. Then it makes sense. But otherwise, it shouldn't be part of your strategy except using them for growing your business if it makes sense for your business. And if they want to write a check, great, let them write a check. And if you've got SV Angel or you've got Andreessen Horowitz and you want to let Nas in with Anthony Saleh, and by the way, great investor on their own. Great investor on their own. There's another one that's a great tech investor. Nas and Anthony Saleh have Queensbridge, which is a great VC fund, but they're structured as a VC fund. Jared Leto has an infrastructure. Ryan Seacrest has an infrastructure. If you're just thinking random celebrity, they have no infrastructure, and their business manager will turn down this investment 99 times out of 100. And if it comes through once, it's because you are the best friend of that celebrity, and the celebrity has said, just make the investment, and they've told the business manager to shut up in this one.
Awesome. Well, let's give a big round of applause for Adam. We'll do questions and answers.
Yeah.
And then we'll sum it up. So now we have some time for questions and answers. So anybody, we'll hand you the mic. Or actually, you can just yell. Small one.
On the VC side, so I took a different approach. Like the fund that I have is just a small piece of something larger that we're doing on the infrastructure side of celebrities in business. So I took the same approach I did with Launchpad, which was when Mark said, let's do Launchpad, I said, how much does it pay? He said, nothing. And he said, what am I going to get out of it? He said, I don't know. You just have to feel whatever you're doing is kind of like paying it forward. Like, I think the best thing you could do for building your startup is just pay it forward. Some way or another, it comes back to you. I'm a big Karma Point fan. Sorry for being so out there. But for me, my transition was the same. I went to the top business managers, entertainment attorneys, celebrities, and I didn't charge them a penny. And I just said, I just want to make sure you don't get screwed. And I spent 2 years doing it and making a lot of friends and saving a lot of people money. And then when I said to them, hey, I want to go do this venture fund, I think this is a way for us to kind of leverage your influence. Let's try this out. We'll all participate. We'll all write a check. It was a lot easier. and it was a lot more fun. But for me, this is a long journey because I thought I was going to be a startup entrepreneur my whole life. And for me, it was about changing the world. You do things for 4 reasons, I think. It's you're either doing it to change the world, which means you're trying to have an impact on society. You're trying to do it to enjoy the journey, and that's more about an impact on you as a human. You're doing it for the money, or you're doing it because you're lost. And I'm a change the world person. So when I turned 40, I didn't think if I spent another 15 or 20 years building startups, would I actually get to the point where I had enough impact on the world that I felt like my life was, worth it other than my family. So that's when, celebrities walking out of the bathroom of a premiere I was at, and I said, boy, this person can do more to change the world in a day than most people can do in a lifetime. So I built a mission around leveraging, tying together influencers and people that can execute so that they can do these mission-driven businesses and be more effective. So it's finding that, for me, the transition even to Launchpad was finding the thing that gets you up every morning because it's not a job. And if you're sitting there looking at your startup going, I had this idea. I spent 5 years doing a company called BiggerBoat, and I loved my co-founder very much, Barbara. But 5 years of hell because I didn't really know what the mission was, and I didn't know the business that we were building. We just had this really cool technology, and I should have stopped a long time earlier. And if you're going to go on this road of an entrepreneur, you got to believe that there's a mission that you're changing the world on, or otherwise you're going to fall off at some point along this road, and it'll be like, why did I do that? So if you're not really feeling at this level, you're probably not doing the startup for the right reason, for me at least. Sorry, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so basically,
The influencer marketplaces. Yeah. So first of all, I think it works great for the next generation of celebrities, people who are building brands right now. This is an amazing time for people to build direct-to-fan audiences. And you're not, you never need a TV show. You don't need a film. You're Bethany Moda. You're Michelle Phan. It is insane what's happening right now. And it's funny to watch the people in Hollywood that are asking me, hey, can you introduce me to this person? I want to rep them. I want to rep them. I want to rep them. All of a sudden, they're making a lot of money. So the traditional world wants to rep them, and they don't need it. So I'm a big fan of these. I don't know if I'm a big fan of the marketplaces, though I think they're fine. Marketplaces tend to commoditize things. So I'm a big fan of the infrastructure around those people and how do they actually build businesses around it that are more behind the wall than kind of, here I'm $100, here I'm $500, here I'm $20,000. I think over time that commoditized subscriber bases. But I'm a big fan of people creating direct-to-fan audiences right now and learning how to turn them into businesses. Yeah. Let me start with the second first because it's an important one for everybody here. I am a big fan of everybody in Hollywood, so do not take this the wrong way. But as a startup, if you have a business that relies on influencers, celebrities, studios, whatever, it is very hard to take investment from one. Because if you take investment from one, you're kind of alienating the others. So you don't need them all, but I would say that I would try to get a minimum of 2, try to get CAA and William Morris, or try to get CAA and UTA, or William Morris and UTA. I happen to like everybody at CAA Investments. I really like everybody at William Morris and at UTA. I'm just saying, if you, as pure investors in a business that doesn't rely on working with the other Hollywood agencies, fine. But if you have to do any business that requires working with other agencies, there's a reason why most clients that are not CAA don't use Husay, or there's a reason why people that are not, clients of William Morris don't use, the audience. Now, they may own 30% of that company, and they might own 3% of yours, but the game's the same. So you got to be careful of that. It's fine if, look, I think we have CAA in distilled, 20 Jeans. That's great. Do we care that, only a portion of Hollywood's going to start making this cool versus the other portion of Hollywood? No, we don't care. So that's the delta. The favorite markets, that's a great question. For celebrities? media, games, and consumer products. Because they're the people who make things cool. And they're the people who have audiences. And the only thing that matter is if you're going to do a hyper vertical about moms, you might want Jennifer Gardner. If you want to build a pair of jeans, you might want Scarlett Johansson wearing it. And if you're going to be doing a game, you might want Kim Kardashian to be in that game, and you might want to be Glue Mobile. So for me, those are the three. On the periphery of that, I would say virtual reality is coming. So that's another one for it. But we're an investor in Wemo Lab here in Venice, and I think there's a lot of venture money going into VR right now. So that's a good one for celebrity too. Advisory grants? So I'm going to just give you a range for a second because, yeah, he's asking what kind of deal do you do with a celebrity that wants to help you, basically, right? So the problem is where's your company at? So I'm assuming if you're nowhere, if you haven't raised any money yet, by the way, I have one that I'm doing like literally today where the founders offered 3% of the company and we think that they're worth 10% of the company. So I'll give you the Launchpad model, which is we've had people come in that had celebrity co-founders. And we didn't think that a celebrity should own more than 10% of the cap table in total because we didn't think, because you have to think about your capitalization table of who's going to spend every day on it. Now, if you're Jessica Alba building Honest, you should have 50, 60% of the company to start and then dilute down. Like, no problem owning 20%, 25% after raising $100 million. God bless her, right? She's working full time on it. But you're talking about, you got to like kind of double-edged sword in what you just said. You said, I'm going to have this person be my influencer. I'm going to give them a piece of the company and they're going to help me get there. You're assuming they're going to help you get there. What does that mean? They're going to help you raise money. They're going to help you go in the room to actually raise money. They're going to have 30 million followers and they're going to convert. They're going to help you like any other advisor. So the way we do it is what I say to my celebrities that are truly advisors. Don't worry about your fan base. If you're going to help, you're going to take a quarter point to 2% of the company, and you're going to do it like any other advisory grant, and you're going to structure it so that you're going to deliver on business development introductions. You're going to do the things that are important. If you're basing it on just tweeting to fans, don't bother giving out the equity because you're not going to get the conversion on it anyway. So your assumption is that it's going to work, and I'm telling you it's not. That's what I'm saying. What? A pool of investment that they are included in? So they're going to help you raise money? Sure, then you treat them like any other person who's going to help you raise money. What I'm saying is the celebrity is going to replace the person who you would have brought in to do the same exact job. It's not the job of finding customers. It's the job of business development. It's the job of fundraising. It's the job of social proof that other people are writing checks. And you treat them very much the same as you would if I was an advisor to your company, or if Sam Teller was an advisor to your company, or whoever you were going to bring in. It's the celebrity piece. The more that you're going to give them, the less you're going to realize how much more they were worth. They're just in the early stages. They're just not worth it. And by the way, if you dilute your entire capitalization table to where you've given all these people equity and you are being brought down, then an investor in the next round is going to look at you and say, you're not a great entrepreneur because you've just given away, you've just devalued this company to giving pieces away to all these people. And I can't invest in you because you have what we call an ugly cap table, meaning where's the room for the rest of your management team? Where's the room for you? You're not going to be incentivized. I'm going to have to top you off. I mean, these are the problems that happen when you don't do things under kind of a venture capital formula. And it's not because it's a game. It's because at the end of the day, these companies really, it's hard enough to get them to work, but you put these added pressures on them where, oh, wait, you know what? We had this. Celebrity owns 30% of my company. What are they doing? Well, not much now, but they helped me get it started. Great. What are they doing now? Well, they're investors. I mean, they exercise their options. Great. What are they doing? Well, they're in part of the company. They're going to help however we ask them to. Great. I mean, we go through this cycle over and over again. They're tweeting. Great. How many customers have you gotten out of it? Like, where's the metrics that come out of your celebrity? And then you've given them 30% of the company. So you really value that company at a $6 million pre? Just gave 30% to the celebrity, and they're doing what? So that's the internal struggle that happens when you start giving away the company to people who you think are going to help you, but they really can't until a certain stage. Very different. I'm doing a Series B deal right now where we're getting points in the company because it's a huge brand endorsement deal in lieu of cash. Company's already doing many millions of dollars in revenue. Makes perfect sense. It's just, I'm talking seed with you. I'm not talking Series B. You had a question? So let me break this into two pieces. Number one, there is nobody in LA that will invest in a sole founder without a technical co-founder. So male, female, doesn't matter. My last two co-founders were women, technical. And that worked out just fine. We raised money. It's just well, you know what? It's how much equity do they have? It's so hard to get great technologist leads here. Like Tracy from Tradesy was the only person we ever let into Launchpad that didn't have a technical CTO or co-founder. Whether you call him co-founder or CTO, doesn't matter. It's how much percentage of the company did they have. And are they going to be here during the hard times when everybody in this town is going to try to recruit them away from you? It's all about ownership, right? And Tracy said, I will have a CTO in this room within 60 days if you take me. And she did, and she's doing really well right now. So there's just a formula that outsourcing your tech and not having somebody who's more than a lead developer, like it's just a problem with again, product visionary, tech visionary, business visionary. If you don't have enough of that with enough ownership, it breaks down at some point. On the woman's side, this is a very big passion area for me. And it's funny because I talk a lot. One of my good friends, Julie Hanna, is the executive chairman of Kiva up in San Francisco. And we talk about fundraising for women. And she's founded 3 companies up in LA. And I'm working on a big project with a very big celebrity around female entrepreneurship. And I've been talking to the biggest female founders all across the country and the globe for the last few months. And I don't think LA is any different, except for the fact that in the angel rounds and seed rounds, you have a little bit of an upper hand because in Hollywood, they've already broken through the glass ceiling. And a lot of people in Hollywood look at, like, women as equals, if not more superior, in a lot of the studio jobs. So there's just this mentality that, of course, women are co-founders. Of course, women are top executives in startups. But I don't think as a percentage basis, you're going to find a better chance of getting investment out of LA than out of San Francisco because there's just so many more people to write a check for you in the Bay Area. Yeah, so I don't think you'd move down because you want a better chance of being a female co-founder down here. It's, again, there's something probably of issue in terms of the team or the mission or your narrative that's not getting the money. I don't think the delta is going to be in the female founder side. I honestly don't. Like, between LA and San Francisco. I'm not saying there's no bias against female founders. There is. Okay. But LA, I mean, look, Dana Settle's amazing, but how many deals can she do a year? I mean, like, there's only, and by the way, Mark Mullen from Double M Capital, if you're an enterprise founder and you're a female, go meet with him. He's dying for more female founders in the enterprise world because he's really passionate about finding equality in female. I mean, there's a lot of people, especially in LA, that are looking for equality, at least female co-founder or female founder. There's just much less money down here. So like a fraction of a fraction. So, yeah.
In terms of seed capital for funding, what do you recommend? Joining a incubator program, an accelerator program, or going for angels?
I gotta say it depends. Like I'm a big fan of Amplify and Paul Brico and the team there. I'm a big fan of Eric and Will at Mucker, and of course Sam. There's a lot of these incubators that have popped up or accelerators that have popped up, and this is kind of a measure of you at this moment, right? Because like if you don't go to Mucker or Amplify, the chance of you getting the top investors to invest in you because you joined some other accelerator, you're already like diminishing your chances. Now, if you can't do it any other way, God bless them for existing. Go join them. It's going to be the greatest learning experience you ever had. In fact, not to knock Howard Marks in Start Engine, but when he first did it, I was like, God, he's taking a lot of this company for very little money. And I was thinking through it. I'm like, how is he? And then I woke up and I'm like, man, Howard is doing one of the nicest things you could ever do in Los Angeles. He's saying to you, I'm going to pay you $10,000 or $12,000 to learn to see if you want to be an entrepreneur for the next 90 days, right? You decide at the end of it you don't want to be it? He's out 10, 12 grand, you're out nothing, right? You decide you want to be it? Great. It was a learning lesson paid for by Start Engine. So you got diluted. But you decide, like, there's moments in your life that you're not sure yet if I'm going to be a company or not. Perfect. He's just saved your life by doing Start Engine. So again, it really depends on how dedicated am I to this? How good is my team? How good am I? How far along am I? And who's willing to work with me? But I would always start at the top and try to break down at the top, because the further you go down in terms of reputation or capital or track record, you're just making it harder for yourself. Now, that's fine if you do it, if it's your first venture. And let me backtrack on everything I said. If this is your first venture, the chance of you having a huge success that will make you rich for the rest of your life is so small that all you should be caring about is who's going to help fund me to learn. So if it's that small incubator that wants 25% of your company for doing jack shit, guess what? I got no other alternative. It's that or don't be an entrepreneur. If it was me, I'd go join a great startup here in LA and learn with the best founders. Like I would be going back in time, I wish I wasn't the CEO of my startups. I wish I joined the best startups that wanted me. I got offers so many times to go be part of something bigger, and I didn't do it because I wasn't the CEO, bless you. That's where I'd go back in time and be part of success. And the minute you go do something else, the MySpace guys, every technologist that worked at MySpace was a cold fusion developer. They didn't know how to code. They were cold fusion developers. And every startup in LA, when they got sold, tried to hire these people because they just were part of a win. And it's really hard to build a culture. And it's really hard to build scale. And it's not necessarily about your chops. It's about your experience in being part of success. So again, be part of things that are successful. That's most important when you're starting these things. It really depends on the rules that you set of dividing and conquering, right? If you all want to sit in the same product meeting, you're fucked. If you all want to sit in the same business meeting, you're fucked. You've got to be able to divide and conquer, because that's the whole raise money, execute, raise money, execute. So it's okay that there's overlap. If all three of you really have all three things, go found 3 companies and be really successful. I don't know if I would do the same company together. And if you really believe that, I would probably really identify who is the best business visionary and who is the best product visionary and who is the best tech visionary, because when all else fails, someone's got to make the call. And finding a happy middle is the worst thing that you could do in a startup. It's the thing that's killed my startups. I'm an accommodative guy. That's why I suck as a CEO. It's like you want somebody who's going to say, this is the decision. This is the decision. It could be right. It could be wrong. But at least you're going for something. You're not trying to compromise on it. And someone in those 3 have to be the person who makes the call. And if 3 of you are going to sit there and talk about a product thing, you're going to find a solution that makes all 3 of you happy, you're done. Ain't going to work.
I have a question on what you just said. How long did it take you in your startups to...
Did you raise your hand?
I did. You didn't see? How long did it take you in your startups to realize that you weren't the CEO, or that you weren't the best CEO?
15 years.
15 years.
15 years. I started in 1994 the first internet record store. I was the third internet record store. And it was in 2009 that I was having lunch with Mark, talking about what he wants to do with Launchpad. And I was sitting there going, and actually it was Howard Morgan I was having lunch with from First Round Capital. I said, I'm thinking of becoming a VC, or I might start another startup. What do you think, Howard? And he was like, this VC thing sounds really good for you. And it was like, he was on my board. He knew like I had these deficiencies, and it really set me off on this. I took a year off. I mean, I had to readjust myself, because like you get on this train and you never stop. And you got to find time for yourself. You got to find time to step back. I never did. And when I did, it was clear. It was my wife who told me, really, you're going to start another one? You sure about that? Like, I love you, but are you really good at this? I was like, well, I'm not bad, but I'm not great. Yeah.
If you're in a seed or even a pre-seed round, is it going to hurt you down the road if you can patchwork together like 15 friends and family to get some money together to start, and then when you start talking to VCs down the road, having that kind of money already invested, is that going to hurt you down the road?
That's a great question. Here's the way I look at it. It's actually, did everybody hear that question? If you take 15 friends and family and patch them together to raise $5,000 each, or whatever the number is, that you got your first 75, 150 grand, whatever it was, is it going to hurt you in raising money later from a venture capitalist? And where it normally hurts you is because you did the stupidest thing. You did like a convertible to common, or you did a common round that valued the company at $8 million. I'll give you an example. Guy I know raised $300,000 from friends and family for common at a $7 million valuation. Good friend, good family. He's not, because he thought he was doing the right way. And when you're trying to hire people, you have to get this thing called a 409A valuation to figure out what your common's worth. Well, guess what? You raised money at a $7 million valuation, so your common's worth 7. So how are you going to hire anybody that's great? So then you're going to piss off. You've got to recap the company with your existing family. So the times that this usually doesn't work is because someone put an instrument in front that's going to screw everything up later. If all you're doing is saying, look, I'm doing a convertible note of 300 grand with a 20% discount with a $4 million cap, and I'm letting these people in, no one's going to hate you and not take. If you're a great company, they'll invest in you. That won't kill you around. But it does have a signal that says, you couldn't get Troy Carter, you couldn't get Ashton, you couldn't get Mark Mullen, you couldn't get angels that like Clark Landry, or you couldn't get Sam Teller, or you couldn't, like, here's the top 20 angels in this town. Which of them are in your deal? Because to them, that's validation that someone else has spent time with you and believes in you, that they can call and say, what do you think? And they know that they're going to be honest because they are all in a lot of deals together and go, yeah, I don't know if I do this one. Or yeah, I'm in it. I'm a big fan. Today, I sent an email to 20 people because I was putting more money in a company. Within 2 hours, I had the money I needed to do the round because I never send that email. So those people are not going to get you the best people. That's the only problem, is it just sets you off on a different path. But I don't think it'll stop you in any way from getting somebody great if they're in your cap table. You're going to have to talk to them a lot, and they're going to call you every week to ask you how the company's doing, and it's going to take up your time, and it's going to hurt you a little bit. But I think if you set expectations correctly with the people, and then you just keep driving forward, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Raising money from AngelList, and does it have a stigma? I love AngelList. If you're not on AngelList, you're not building a startup. I'm sorry. Like, it is so simple. And you know what? You find Kelly Purdue, or you find Clark Landry, or Paige Craig, or any one of the LA investors. What they're doing now is they're like, I'm in for 50 or 100. Let me go do an AngelList syndicate and try to get you the other $500,000, $1 million. And they're doing it like that. And it's amazing. And you know what? If you're not already on there collecting followers and going and building up your profile, then it makes it harder for them to go build their syndicate to go invest in you. So if you are not on AngelList right now and you're not building your profile and following the right people, like, that is the best research tool and promotion tool there is for a startup. And it says a lot about you if you're not on there and figuring it out. I'm being honest. Like, that is a great question. And if you do one thing walking out of here is optimize AngelList, because it's going to come up like that, where you're sitting with an individual investor. They're like, you know what? I'd love to do an AngelList profile. How many followers do you have on AngelList? You know, who's following on AngelList? Like, how quickly do you think I can convert this? So it's a great question. Anybody else?
So there's this startup idea I have, and
Is it in stealth mode? Just kidding.
but we plan to scale it pretty large, like we go and shoot for the stars, right? But we don't own the domain .com. Now we're really close. We found the seller. He's said that he'll accept a 5-figure amount, which at an early stage we don't have.
Yep.
So he actually said that he would take equity in exchange for the domain. What do we do? Do we get the money? Do we just buy it outright?
So there's three things you can do. Number one is you can do what I prefer, which is the rent to own. Is offer them $3,000, $4,000 for a 12 to 18 month option to buy it at a certain price, so that you at least lock in the ability to go buy it for the next year and a half. Because if you raise money and you start going for the stars, 50 grand, not going to be a problem. You'll buy the domain, right? Fab bought the domain. People buy the domain once they start scaling. You don't buy the domain for 5 figures. And by the way, if it's only 10 or 15 grand, the minute you raise your seed round, buy the domain. Like, it's worth it for the .com. You're just shooting yourself in the foot if you don't have it. If it's a good domain. If it's not a great domain, then you're just wasting time anyway. So that's the rent to own. The other is just a portion in your fundraise, the ability to go buy it. Like, just say, if it's 5 figures, it's what, 10 to 30,000 bucks? Not a lot of money for a domain that's going to be a good domain that's going to help you build your brand. Like, okay, that's just part of your money. Or 3, you just give them equity. Hey, I'll give you 2% of the company. Whatever it is, I own the domain. Great. By the way, if the company goes bankrupt in the next 12 to 18 months, you can have the domain back. Right? So low risk, like lower the equity amount, but give them the ability to get it back if you don't take the company to the next level. Those are the 3 things I do. Good idea. Tony Godred's very good at this.
Awesome.
Yes. What gig? So, look, we haven't, it's very frustrating because we haven't made any announcements yet, but yeah. Look, months ago, we made a decision that LA, look, when we started Launchpad, it was a mentorship program. When Sam came in to co-found the Accelerator, there was just the starting of these accelerator programs. So I think, the idea behind it, to give Mark credit, was, we really just need to keep growing this LA community. Well, LA's, talk about heat. There's enough heat in LA that I don't know if you really need 3 accelerators, 15 vertical accelerators, 12 incubators. Like, these things go in curves. So months ago, we made the decision to kind of just support the other accelerators. I don't know why we didn't announce it. I don't know why people ask, well, why aren't you in the space? Sam's still investing through Launchpad in some of the early stage companies. But as far as the accelerator program and having classes in space, I think we announced months ago that we were going to get rid of the space and do them outside the space. And I think you'll find, especially with Sam, he's got some big things happening in his life. I think Launchpad for me months ago was like, I spend more time with Paul Brico and Amplify and Eric and Mucker. I think LA is doing just fine. I wanted us to kind of claim victory and go home, but we didn't say anything. And we'll say something soon, but don't go pitching Launchpad right now. I don't think it's worth your time.
We really appreciate you taking the time with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.